we have our first woman guest, Vindhya. Thanks for coming.
My love for real estate actually started from my love for design and architecture.
What, in your view, is true sense of luxury?
Convenience. How is your life getting elevated by owning a certain property?
You are able to buy a holiday home, say at an average bracket, what should you look at?
You do have to look at a budget of about 6 crores at least. Sometimes people's sentiments do get hurt when you ask them about their profile. We very subtly try to tell them that this product might not be a good fit for them rather than saying they're not a good fit for the product.
A lot of people in Hyderabad are also opting to buy properties outside of Hyderabad. Why do you think that's happening?
There's a lot of investment going into Goa. In fact, all the Goans keep saying it's the Hyderabadis and the Delhi people that drove their property prices up. And the future of luxury real estate is going to be a marriage of real estate and hospitality. Either partnering with a hospitality brand or figuring out the services angle yourself.
So have you seen an increase in demand for it?
Last year, 41% of all the sales in the residential segment in India have come from luxury homes.
Where does Hyderabad stand?
I don't think any other metro has really seen the kind of development Hyderabad has seen, right?
Yeah.
Something that I found really fascinating was
Hi everyone. Today is a very special episode. We have our first woman guest, Vindhya. Thanks for coming. And I think it's going to be a very inspiring thing to let everybody know how your journey has been. It's very, I think, few times you see a woman in this space. And, and we have 40% of our followers are women. And I'm sure that, in one way or another, they are interested in the space. And if you could let us know about your journey and how it all started and what it's been like for you.
Sure. Thank you, Megha, and thank you for having me on your
pleasure,
show.
yeah.
And I'm actually honored that I'm representing the women in real estate community, because I do think it's still a minority, but we are getting there slowly.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm always on the lookout for other women in this space, so
Yeah.
it is hard to find. So coming to my journey, I think my love for real estate actually started from my love for design and architecture. But how I got into it is actually because of my dad. He's been in the residential real estate space in Bangalore. So I had a little bit of exposure to it growing up and stuff. They were in the mid-segment residential real estate space. But I was always very keen on doing something more design-oriented. So I picked the second home market, and I was also very keen on building my own entity.
Yeah.
So I started my own company called Amavi Living. It is a boutique real estate development and consulting firm.
Okay.
And we primarily focus on the second home market. So what we've done is help people identify and buy luxury holiday homes in Goa, Kunur, that is on the advisory front. We've now gotten into our own development as well. So we have a weekend home project that we launched here in Hyderabad. That's my first project. Very excited.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's beautiful.
It's called Silla. We're developing 27 homes. And the idea with Amavi was that anything we do, whether we're selling a property developed by another developer or building our own, they have to be unique from a couple of points. Basically, design is one of the key things that we look at.
Okay.
How is this a unique product in the market? So we usually look for unique properties or develop unique properties, and that's how we. So the focus is really on architecture.
Okay. So more on people who understand what luxury truly means, and something that stands out is what your criteria is, right?
Yeah.
Word luxury has been overused, or misused.
Yeah.
But what, in your view, is true sense of, say, luxury? Or of course, when you say second homes, also that plays a part, right? So what, according to you, is luxury?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think luxury is one of the most loosely used terms in real estate. So the basic, where luxury starts is obviously with your fittings and, all of your Italian marbles. This is the bare minimum that you can offer. But for me, what luxury truly is convenience. How is your life getting elevated by owning a certain property? Not elevated in terms of just opulence or that sense of owning a beautiful property, but more like the services angle, like how am I being taken care of because I own this property, and this is especially relevant in the second home market. Now it is making its way into primary homes as well. People are very keen about, I mean, luxury, I think at the end of the day is convenience, right? So how can living in a specific space or owning a certain property really make my life easier? In what ways am I being taken care of by a front desk, or is there a concierge service? Is there an F&B experience attached to it? Is there housekeeping services? Basically reducing the pain of owning and maintaining a home. For me, that's where like luxury really comes from.
Okay.
Of course, your standard, your locations, your features, fittings, all of these are the standard palette that you get. But I think to truly call yourself a luxury property, you have to be adding value to the owner's life.
So basically the experience that they would have in the project or the property, right? Yeah. And having said that, today's episode is going to be about luxury projects or properties, and how do we, understand that in different aspects of it. So whether you gave us a gist of what is luxury in your point of view, right? But you have different types of properties. You have flats, you have plots, you have villas. So if you could tell us what luxury means in these aspects of it, right? Like, what should I consider a luxurious plotting project or a villa project or a flat?
Yeah.
So if you could give us a little more insight so people understand what you need to look at when they're buying.
So I think, there are like 5 overarching factors which will be common to all of these developments when it comes to luxury real estate, right? First and foremost, because it is real estate, location always drives the decision. Yeah. So there are some areas that are more coveted for luxury properties, and there are some upcoming markets. I think we'll get into that. Location is one primary aspect. Secondly, I think in the Hyderabad market, an observation that I've made in the luxury segment specifically is people love large spaces here. So the reason, and it's not just here, it's been a trend that's happening in India as well, especially post-COVID. Large spaces, not just large spaces as in, okay, you're giving this 10,000 SFT space and you can do what you want with it, but really thought out functional spaces. So how can a place be planned in a way that it's catering to your work needs, your leisure needs, your family time? So thoughtful design. Thoughtful design, good architecture is something that I think all luxury projects are looking into, and you should also look at it when you're looking at a property. Then comes the lifestyle angle. So what is the community offering to improve or enhance your life? So this could be your like state-of-the-art facilities, your clubhouses, or your sporting facilities, or the services angle that I mentioned. Is there a front desk that can help you? Things like that. So how is your lifestyle really getting impacted by being a part of this community? Fourth thing comes down to exclusivity. So luxury most of the times, and I don't mean exclusivity in terms of like pricing or affordability, but lower density. Whether it is an apartment or a villa community or a plotting community, people look to pay more when there is a lower density. So I don't want to live in a community which has like, it's a personal preference. Maybe there are 300 villas. I would pick something that has 100 villas in the same area. So exclusivity in terms of density.
Say 15 acres.
Yeah.
Something that has, say, 100 villa, you would rather take a property with 15 villas in that project.
Yeah. So that would be my personal preference. And then a very important factor is privacy. So, you don't want to be looking at your neighbors. You don't want, if it is a flat, you don't want to open your main door and then have like the other person's main door in front of you where you're running into.
You're very obligated to have a conversation.
So I think privacy is a very important factor, whether it is a villa community or an apartment or a plotting project, that is key. So how the developers ensuring that you have that like visual privacy from your neighbors is important. And the last point that I always look into is the community. And I actually give credit to developers that do a little bit of profiling on who they are selling to, who their buyers are. Because your community really matters. These are the people you will, they're around you. It opens up opportunities. It opens up learning. It is who your kids might be spending time growing up with. So I think the curation of the community is also really important. For me especially, any projects that I handle, we are very careful with who we sell to. And if it means turning down a client, we do have to take that call if we feel like they're not a good fit for the community and the rest of the buyers.
Right. Very interesting, because it does play a huge part of your life if you're living there. I think a lot of them don't think of it or consciously think of it.
Yeah, it is overlooked, and I mean, sometimes people's sentiments do get hurt when you ask them about their profile for when they come to invest into a property, but it is actually better for them in the longer run.
How do you handle that situation?
It's very politely here, but basically, I mean, we very subtly try to tell them that this product might not be a good fit for them, rather than saying they're not a good fit for the product. So,
okay.
Whether it's throwing off a negotiation or just, so there are some tactics, but we handle it politely, and some people get it, some people get upset. But if you take the call and you're conscious about curating the community, I think it's okay. People will appreciate it.
So what are the aspects that you look at when you're saying profiling, right?
Right. So it really depends, right? So there are certain communities that want to have entrepreneurs and a business fraternity as a part of the community.
Right.
There are some communities like younger parents are more keen on, because they have kids,
children of the
same school and all that. So it depends on the kind of community that you're looking at. But yeah, I mean, profiling in terms of what is their lifestyle, what is their work, or what are their preferences. And
so you've given us the common factor of what you should look at when you say luxury. But what in specific do I look at when it comes to flat or an independent house, villas or plots, right? If you can give us more in-depth of segmented explanation, I think it will be easier for our audience.
Yes. So I think in the luxury apartment space, what we're seeing is a general trend in Hyderabad has been one, of course, you have large single floor units, so ranging from 10,000 SFT to 15,000 SFT. So they're massive floor plates. And in the floor plates, the spaces are being thought out very, from a functional point of view. So is there a home office being provided in there? Do your bedrooms have walk-in closets? Do all the rooms have large balconies? Do you have a large balcony that flows, that your living room flows into? What is your floor-to-ceiling heights? Are you getting, people are looking for larger heights because it just gives that, the space feeling. And then staff. So owning any luxury property means that there is a fair amount of maintenance involved from your end and from the overall community. So I think a very integral thing that you got to look at is a staff housing, like staff quarters. Do you have one attached to your home, or is there a common space where the staff can be accommodated? Because only when you take care of them well will they take care of your home.
Absolutely,
and they stay. And these days, staff is getting, they are getting harder to, keep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, and it's actually surprising, I've seen some projects in central Hyderabad, expensive projects that have no, staff rooms. And that for me is not okay. And then, of course, your amenities. What are you getting in your clubhouse? Sporting facilities. How big is your gym? Is it going to be crowded if all the residents or 50% of the residents use it during the peak hours? Because this is something that I personally look at, but people have different preferences. How large are the swimming pools?
Dry kitchen, wet kitchen.
Utility areas. Is there storage space provided? Is there a storeroom? And I think now a few of the luxury apartment communities are also coming up with laundry facilities, So there are laundry rooms where you can you can book a slot and use them, so there's no laundry drying around in your...
I think, that's amazing.
That is something I think you could look at for the apartments. When it comes to villas, again, your large built-up spaces is something people are always keen on. Villas versus apartments, I think the only thing that changes is here. These are obviously, most of the villas in Hyderabad today are 3 floors high. They have a ground and a first and a second. So it's a multi-level living. And again, you have your own private plot and space all around. So how much space are you getting all around? What is the footprint that your villa is occupying? And what is the space you're getting around the villa? Again, the floor to ceiling heights, the facades, the glazed windows, your Italian marbles and your expensive international fittings. These are standard offerings.
I think right now, I think it's standard everywhere.
It's fairly standard. So luxury villas, I think the only way they're differentiating themselves is one, design, architecture, and two, the amenities. What are they providing? How Are they making this communal engagement nicer, better, making sure that people do have like really premium spaces to get along, come together at, and larger plot sizes. So luxury villas meaning larger plot sizes. And then when you come to plotting communities, there again, for a plotting community to really be referred to as a luxury plotting community.
I'm a little curious to know because how do you define a plotting project as a luxury project?
I think, the very basics would be the plot sizes. So that's one way where you you control the ticket sizes, and by that, the community of people that buy into it.
So what would your ideal size be of a plot to consider that as a luxury?
At least 1,000 square yards.
At least.
Yeah, at least. But these are not realistic in the center of the city. You will have to go away, not in your west and stuff. Like land is very unaffordable there right now. But if you move towards the south and, towards the airport, it is still possible for you to find larger plot sizes. But I think what really makes it a luxury, this thing for me in plotting projects, what I look for is there a concept to it? Because at the end of the day, a plotting project is like roads and a space for a clubhouse at the mid-segment level. But if it is luxury, then is there a concept to it? Is there a sustainable living angle to it? Is there like a forest angle, like, a green community? There are some plotting projects doing Miyawaki forests, there are some working on a sustainable living model where there is a farming angle to it. So you can get your own produce. There are more green spaces. So concept living is something that I look for. And at the same time, what are the amenities that are ideally for a plotting project to be considered luxury? The clubhouse should also be developed. A lot of the times in the mid-segment plotting projects, only a provision is given for the clubhouse, but they're not actually developed. That is that is the responsibility of the association to get into it later when people start living there. So there are very few developers that actually get into the development of the clubhouse, sporting facilities. So I think in a plotting project, that's what I would look at if it is in the luxury segment.
So what in terms of, I think people have evolved, in terms of the whole luxury. People are willing to buy that. I think it's been a journey. People were very conservative and, had this, it was a standard thought. You buy a land and then then it just grows and it's there, right? But people I think have evolved and gotten into this concept of, say, second homes and having that weekend homes or whatever, right? But into a luxury segment of it, and people are willing to get that experience. So what do you think in that segment, like a concept, or what is picking up?
So I think the future of luxury real estate is going to be a marriage of real estate and hospitality. So unless you bring in the whole services angle, luxury real estate as we know it is fairly saturated. You can't just keep building fancy buildings with nice architecture anymore. It's basically evolving into either partnering with a hospitality brand or, figuring out the services angle yourself. So I think the future of luxury real estate is going to be your branded residences, your serviced residences.
I think some of them are already started.
There is one I think that's already in the works, as in construction has begun. There's another one coming towards Rajendra Nagar. So this trend of branded homes started in Bombay and Bangalore a little while ago, back in 2015.
And I think the outskirts of, Karnataka, Kerala, border side of it as well.
So now it's picking up here. And I think there's a large scope for it because people, like I said, want to pay for convenience and better quality of living. So I think that is the way forward for luxury real estate, for companies to really evolve, to bring in some services into it as well. And I think another, even assisted living is coming up in...
Right. I think it's called Blue something abroad, right? Like Blue Dot or something.
And I just, in fact, recently spoke to someone that's doing luxury assisted living. And there's always luxury second homes, which are second homes, like I said, for me particularly, they are very exciting because you get to be aspirational with them. Like in your primary homes, you're restricted by like vastu, practical, everyday functional needs. But your second homes where you can really play, you can play with the large spaces, you can play with design. There's a lot more flexibility and fluidity to what you can do with this space. So this segment, and also because people love space, and it is land in Hyderabad is getting very expensive, so you can't really.
I think it's I think there was a point where it went off the roof. The prices or the growth was. I think now there's some saturation in terms of.
I think it is needed also. Others, it's just,
and it had to bounce back at some point.
Because when I moved here from Bangalore, like in 2016, 2017, the prices were still so reasonable. I remember coming and thinking, oh wow, like the homes here are so huge and the plot sizes are so huge.
I think it would also mean that you just got, when you moved here from Bangalore, you would have seen some kind of cost of living must have been cheaper.
It was cheaper. Quality of life was better because the infrastructure is so much better here. And just all the homes, the apartments, the plots, everything was a lot larger because the prices back then surprisingly were still cheaper than they were in Bangalore, in like CBD areas of Bangalore. But now they've taken over Bangalore. I think that 2017 to the 20 just around COVID time, just like the kind of growth that the Hyderabad real estate market has seen, I don't think any other industry will give you those kind of returns.
I think you must have seen it must have been amazing for you to experience that when you moved here, and I think you were here at the peak time of it.
I really did, because I think when I lived towards Gachibowli, and there was literally none of the buildings you see today, like none of the skyscrapers, none of the IT buildings, nothing existed there. There was IKEA. IKEA also came up after I moved here. Actually, there was nothing. All of these buildings really came up in the last 4 to 5 years. So, I mean, and that's what I tell people, the kind of infrastructure development that we've seen in Hyderabad is absolutely unparalleled. You don't see this anywhere. Like every time I go back home, the only thing that to Bangalore, the only thing I keep thinking is, oh man, these roads, this traffic.
I mean, with all the memes coming out about the rain in Bangalore, I love Bangalore, but
the quality of life is just getting a little compromised for sure.
I think that's what we have in common. We grew up in Bangalore. Right? So, Vindhya, I've also noticed, right, a lot of people in Hyderabad are also opting to buy properties outside of Hyderabad, like Goa and other places. If you can give your insights on, what those other places are apart from Goa, and why do you think that's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you rightly said, there's a lot of investment going into Goa. In fact, all the Goans keep saying it's the Hyderabadis and the Delhi people that drove their property prices up. And, in the last few years, there has been a lot of interest in the holiday home space. People own properties and farmhouses here, weekend homes, but they are investing a lot into Goa and Coorg. I think these are the two primary markets for holiday home investments out of Hyderabad. And these investments have actually doubled and tripled post-COVID. A lot more people are wanting homes in Goa. Even today, we get a lot of inquiries. People are consistently looking for something in Goa and the hills. So they these are the two popular locations amongst the Hyderabadis. They like having a home that they can go to with the kids, and homes that are yielding them some rentals while they're not using it. These holiday homes actually give you a higher yield in terms of rentals than a residential property here. And we have excellent connectivity, right? There are direct flights to all of these places. So it'll be interesting to see what other new holiday destinations they're looking at investing into, because there are even Alibag and Lonavala are coming up quite quickly. We haven't seen too many Hyderabadis invest into there yet, but I think that will also start happening. Lonavala is something that people have started looking at from Hyderabad. And some offbeat areas in Maharashtra which have sea frontage or sea views. Those are areas that people are looking at.
Okay. So I think the advantage is, one is, you have a holiday home, you travel there for short holidays, and then also it's giving you a rental income on that.
Yeah, and maintenance is usually always taken care of in these properties.
Okay.
Any home that is outside of Hyderabad usually are homes that are fully managed and maintained. So your rental management and property management services are both taken care of.
Okay.
So literally, like there
You're
is
not
no,
really worried about what is
at
happening
all,
there.
at all. You just let them know, okay, I'm coming, and then your house is ready, and then you leave, and they put it out on rent, and everything is taken care of
No, nice.
by a service provider. That's what makes these super attractive for investors, because there's no really the pain of owning it, right? Because everything is taken care of.
Yeah.
In fact, it's harder to maintain your primary home than
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is to
sure,
the secondary homes. So I think that's why people really got fond of Goa, because
And I think they take a cut of
they
the
do.
revenue.
So most of these service providers work on a rev share basis. They take care of all of the maintenance, like bringing in the rentals, all of that. But they do like a 30% or 25% revenue.
Which I think is still worth it.
Yeah, it's still worth it. Like if they're taking away the pain of dealing with all of that yourself, which is not possible also sitting here, it's just an unnecessary stress, then it makes complete sense. So yeah, people are open to that. They're okay sharing that revenue for the ease and convenience of owning their home.
I think that's a very, very good concept
Yeah.
for people as well, right? So in terms of revenue, right, like ROI, what is a percentage that you can look at in that model?
So in Goa, the homes are able to give you a rental yield of anywhere between 6 to 8%, which is really impressive for residential real estate. This also is because like short-term rentals usually get you more, like, on seasons, during peak seasons, you charge more. And during off seasons, you sort of even it out. But short-term rentals in general, like that's why people are also really like this whole Airbnb business is blowing up. But it's because of that, because short-term rentals always give you a better yield than like... So 6 to 8% is what...
I think that's pretty decent.
It's very good.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why when people come to me looking for properties in Hyderabad, and if it is purely from an investment point of view, then I always recommend looking at holiday homes, because they're a good investment. You can use them when you want, and your rental yields are so much better than what you would get in the city. So it completely makes sense to explore it.
Okay. And would you say that, you are able to buy a holiday home at a, minimal, or say at an average bracket? What should you look at?
So, I mean, of course, the prices in Goa have shot up in the past, but I think a good holiday home, whether you're looking at a Coorg or a Kunur or a Goa, you do have to look at a budget of about 6 crores at least.
Like for a good one.
like a 3 BHK, like a fully developed, with your interiors and landscaping, everything in place. At least 6 crores to really find something that's of a good size in a central location that is rentable. Yeah, but there's no limit to how far they go up. 10 crore homes. The average transactions that usually happen with a lot of the Hyderabadi buyers for Goan homes are in the 8 to 10 crore range.
Okay.
That's the ticket size that they look at. And then, of course, there are like your ultra luxury properties as well that go at 25 crores, 30 crores.
Yeah, depending on the view and all that, I'm sure.
So those kind of transactions also happen with Hyderabadis.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
And it's always amazing to have a holiday home and, to have a higher ROI.
Yeah, for sure. And actually what's interesting now is like a lot of 1 BHKs and studios are coming up as well, which are in that like 1 to 2 crore range for like a younger investor. Like if I wanted to just invest in something that's just there to give me a little bit of a rental yield, or, and a smaller property if I don't want to spend 6 or 7 crores. These are also not bad to
like
look at.
Studios
And 1 BHKs, because they also are rentable. They're easy to rent, and you can look at like taking home anywhere between like 80,000 to 1 lakh a month on this investment in the peak season. For seasons it'll come down. Which is a really good return. So I think that's also an interesting, size to look at. If you're not big on like, I'm not going to go live there, but I just want to invest and get my feet wet in that market. There are plenty of options today. They weren't there in the past, but now these models are popping up in Goa. Towards Nerul, towards Seoul, they're coming up.
Okay. Yeah. Then do you have these options in, say, like a Coorg or a Kunur? Or is it more on the larger scale in terms of land parcel?
And Coorg and Kunur, I think they're definitely larger because these models haven't started off there yet. So they're larger estates because it's also like more difficult to build in the hills and you don't see as much traffic as you see in Goa, right? Like, so there you see larger homes, larger estates, larger parcels of land, a very different vibe altogether. Goa is, because it's all seasons. People are there all the time.
Yeah, and there's more, traction that you have in terms of people going and tourism and stuff. Yeah. That's also a very insightful point that you've given, because I don't think people look at going out of Hyderabad as much.
Yeah.
But for my audience, this could be an option if they have that bracket. Invest
their money. And then Goa is obviously it's only been shooting up in popularity or land prices or real estate prices. So it is actually a great place to park your money, if you're bored of owning real estate in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
And earlier, for most of us, the problem is that we have this mindset of, oh, it's out of town, we're not going to be able to
travel
or deal with it. We won't know. It's not. But in all of these prime holiday home markets, the developer fully takes care of that. You don't have to worry about your legality issues, your title deeds, or like your ownership. Like all of that is taken care of by the developer. Your maintenance is taken care of by the developer. Your rentals are taken care of. So it's not as difficult as we once used to think it was. Today, it's as easy as just parking your money there and then just enjoying the property. So it's actually a great option to consider.
What about resale?
So resales have now come down from how they were before, specifically speaking before, because the supply has also gone up.
Right.
But there is a resale market for sure. At these ticket sizes, back when... And all these prices really shot up post-COVID because a lot of migration also happened into Goa. Like people from Bombay and Delhi actually started living there, and then developers also started, coming in aggressively. Resale is there, but I wouldn't say it's as quick as it used to be previously.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are people that are selling older properties. There are people buying older properties and refurbishing them. But the thing is that you have so many new options coming up every day, so it becomes a little harder. But if it is a newer property in a good location, the sale always happens.
Okay. So it totally depends on what you buy and what you have.
The kind of product and the location.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Now we've seen a lot of villa projects coming on the west side of it, like Kokapet and all of these areas, where the villa is about 25 crores. And for a lot of people, it might be unrealistic. But why do you think it's that expensive?
Land prices, right? When you have the government auctioning land out at 100 crores an acre, and if you just do a simple calculation backwards and see what it might cost you to own 1,000 square yards, and this is not including your development costs. So if you just take 100 crore an acre land and want to pick up 1,000 square yard plot, just the cost, not your development, is about 20 crores. And on top of that, you're building a luxury villa with luxury specs. So 25 crores is the bare minimum if you want to be in those areas. So what I think, I think there is a real misconception that the developers are hiking the prices up, or these are so expensive, but they have no choice. If you want to really get into villa development in these markets, the land itself is so pricey that there is literally no way to do it any cheaper than that. So people, I think, also should now start opening their minds to exploring newer markets. I've seen a lot of shift towards the south, because west is obviously...
Do you feel that the south is picking up
for the luxury projects as well? Because land is definitely a lot more affordable there compared to the prices in the west. So by south, I mean in and around the airport. So you're Shamshabad, or your Sri Salem Highway, or your Pedda Golconda. Here I can see a lot of newer luxury projects coming up because they're able to give you that luxury of space in these areas.
Okay.
And it's really not that much of a commute. Hyderabad has such a lovely...
I think airport is getting closer.
Yeah, it's getting closer, and there's so much development happening around the airport as well. So there's malls coming up, there's hospitals, there's this Aero City coming up. So it's not that you will feel disconnected from the... city or anything, and people, I think, are now becoming more open to exploring these areas. So if you want a villa in financial district in Kokapet, I don't think you would get anything really for less than that 27-30 crore range. But if you want to get something similar with maybe even like a larger space, I would say like you explore the south, because there are options popping up there and some brilliant projects coming up on that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
You know, look that side where you get better experiences in larger space.
Yeah.
You know, maybe for a lesser cost.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it comes down to people's preferences also. There are some people that would like, put large spaces over anything else. And there are people that would prefer location, like the proximity to the cities over anything else. So it is very subjective. But because commute is not so difficult in Hyderabad, thanks to the ORR, which I like love. You can literally get anywhere.
And so beautiful.
It is so beautiful. Driving is so peaceful, and just really makes your life so much easier.
Yeah.
So so commute is really not difficult, and I think if you want luxury villas in a slightly lower price bracket, then I think these are the areas to explore.
Yeah. So suppose that, you know, you have a segment of people who've invested in the luxury property, but what do they look at in terms of ROI? How are the rentals for a luxury property?
So most of the luxury residential real estate segment basically gets you a yield of anywhere between 2 to 3%, whether it is in Hyderabad or Bombay or anywhere else. So the residential real estate as an asset class is actually not so desirable in terms of ROI. It's more an investment you make if it is for personal use or end use.
Okay.
There are different asset classes like your second homes in the holiday cities or your retail and commercial spaces that give you a much better ROI. Those range between like 5 to 8%. Sometimes with some retail spaces, it even goes up to 11%. So residential real estate actually gives you the lowest ROI in terms of yield. But that is why it is mainly driven by like retail end users and not really, it's not a great investment vehicle to really, especially apartments. Yeah,
On
if you're
the
looking at a
rental
yield,
side
if you're
of
looking
it.
at a passive income.
Right.
So if I were to give it like a per SFT, this thing, basically in apartments in Hyderabad today are getting 40 to 60 rupees per SFT is what it's working out to. So your yield works out to 2 to 3%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the rental aspect of it, right? In terms of appreciation, I know there's a standard land appreciation that goes into place, but how is it like equally appreciated when it's luxury? Because obviously you're investing a little more for that experience.
Right. Again, here I think villas and apartments have like a different appreciation, these things, because villas appreciate a little more, even if they're in the luxury space, because your land prices and you have like an actual physical position of land as opposed to an undivided share that you get in your apartment. So in apartments, you get an undivided share. And also because of Hyderabad being Hyderabad, where we don't have FSI restrictions and there's a lot of new developments coming on, I think the supply for luxury apartments is only going to go up. So the only way you really see like the kind of appreciations that, first of all, I don't think it's realistic to want to see the kind of appreciations you've seen in the last 4 years in Hyderabad. I think it's saturated to some point. But for a luxury apartment, for it to really, appreciate, I think the 2-3 key factors. One, location. If there is no supply in that area, then yes, maybe you will see a higher, appreciation on the property.
Just on the luxury
just in the luxury segment. And if it is something really like if there's a branded home or a service home which is not being offered, like the uniqueness of the product, if it is not being offered anywhere else, then you might see appreciation. But I think supply is plenty today in Hyderabad, so it's appreciation is directly linked to your location and the supply in that particular area.
Right.
Yeah.
The influence, like I said, I've seen like a journey of, how the entire luxury from say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was perceived very differently.
Yeah.
And today it's perceived very differently. Do you feel that there's been an influence from like, NRIs or, people who moved back?
No, definitely. I think globalization has played a large role in how we see what we want. And like when the more exposure developers get to what's going on outside the country, we're able to bring that into our country and replicate it. So all of these concepts are not, there's nothing new that we've come up with. These are models that have worked in different countries for different people, and then we brought them here, and we've been innovating in this space. NRIs, in terms of, they do contribute fairly well to the luxury segment. And I think they actually prefer the luxury segment over anything else, primarily because one, they're used to larger spaces abroad, and then they use, and luxury homes here offer you the same sort of larger spaces, and they're in locations which are closer to business hubs, and that's what most NRIs look for, because in case they are returning to India, they want to be closer to business hubs, not knowing what their future is going to hold in terms.
And also they get used to the larger spaces abroad, because I think that's what they have there.
Yeah, they have. And then I think also luxury segment comes, there are only a few players in this space. So the trust and transparency that these developers are able to offer is sort of more than like the unorganized sector, where there are smaller players. So NRIs actually prefer that, having that transparency, because they're not here. They can't deal with the issues on a day-to-day basis. So when a developer is able to service them well, assist them well, I think that's usually why they keep investing into the luxury space, because there's a comfort factor attached to it as well. Yeah. So they do play a significant role in terms of how much. I think almost 15% of the luxury sales actually come from the NRIs. And there's also been an easement in policy and bringing in foreign capital into the country. So that's also really helping this inflow of NRI capital into this segment.
So have you seen an increase in demand for it in the past few years? Do you feel that the graph has gone up?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, in fact, I think last year, 41% of all the sales in the residential segment in India have come from luxury homes, luxury residential real estate. So by luxury residential real estate, they basically categorize homes 4 crores and upwards as luxury real estate. And according to statistics, 41% of the entire sales have actually come from this luxury segment. And because of this affinity, what people's preferences are changing, and a lot of developers are evolving to move towards this premium offering and moving away from the affordable housing and the mid-segment housing quite a bit, and focusing on the premium projects. I think this is because of multiple reasons. One, just like, India's, rapidly growing economy, we have more HNIs and ultra HNIs, UHNIs than we did a few years ago. So the disposable income has really gone up. And post-COVID, people are really learning. They have a newfound respect for space, being locked up in smaller spaces with families for long periods of time. It really opened up their eyes. So people are preferring larger spaces, and they are more keen on premium offerings now more than ever.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that you said it's 40. It's about 40% luxury sales that you had in real estate. But do you really consider 4 crores and above to be luxury? What in your sense is the bracket?
So I definitely think, that is subjective. So
depends on the location.
But in terms of Hyderabad, I don't think 4 crores is the luxury segment. Here, I would say 7 crores and upwards would be the real luxury segment. I think just because our land prices have shot up so much, and it's not easier to do homes in that 2 to 3 crore bracket unless you're willing to explore markets a little further away from the hot spots. So for me here, I think the 7 crores, 6 to 7 crores and upwards is sort of what the luxury segment here is. And you have apartments going for like 20 crores. These are these large, 1 flat per floor apartments. There are villas going for 30, 40 crores. There are second homes going for 20, 25 crores. So it's been crazy. I think the spending capacity in Hyderabad is at like an all-time high now.
I think either we take it as a compliment or build on that. Or, but I think the market is going to pick up at some point.
Yeah, it is. And I think this best, I mean, even though like we've faced a little bit of a slowdown in the real estate market because of, the political landscape changes in that and stuff. But the luxury segment is rarely ever affected by it as heavily as the other segments in real estate.
Right. Why do you say that?
Because I think most of these are end use driven, right? So, and they are purchased by the affluent people who are not, so, and it's basically for to use by one of the family members. So when you're looking for a product that you want to live in, for a home that you're looking to live in, that is rarely affected by marketing conditions. Either you need it or you don't, or you want it or you don't want it.
Very, very interesting.
So the luxury segment and this aspirational bracket is purely need driven and not as much
as investment driven.
Yeah, as much as investment driven, because you don't get the same kind of returns in the luxury space, right?
Right. Makes sense.
So this particular industry is not heavily impacted by it. So if you have a good product, then people are willing to come.
Very, very interesting. I think now I look at it differently. So what, according to you, are the top 3 areas?
So I think for luxury independent homes, your Jubilee, Film Nagar and Banjara Hills still manage to hold their place as the most sought after markets for independent homes. When it comes to luxury apartments, I think your West, your Kokapet, your Neopolis, that area, financial district.
Like the West.
Yeah, the West it's been hot for a couple of years, and I think it will continue to do so because it's also becoming the business hub and sort of like the new center of the city. So Gachibowli, Kokapet.
Yeah, I think Gachibowli is the new center now.
Yeah, so those are still very sought after, and I think this is where we're seeing a lot of the luxury apartment projects coming up as well. And then now there's again, like I mentioned, a surge of luxury properties towards the south, closer to the airport. So business owners that commute regularly or like the older generation, which is done living in the city, they're like, we don't need to be closer to the city because we don't have to worry about kids' schools and this and that or going to work every day. They are preferring the south because they get larger spaces, there's proximity to the airport, and it's just a little less crowded and happening than, what you see in the west and in the city. So I think these are the 3 most sought after areas right now for residential real estate.
So I think in terms of, covering that topic of apartments, flats, I think there's been a lot of production in this segment, luxury segment. And I think demand is also that much, hence the production. Right? But selling for, say, 6 crores and above, why do you think that an apartment shouldn't cost that much, right? Or should it?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the evolution of these large floor plate homes, at least from what I have seen, has actually started after I moved to the 2017-2018 period. But post-COVID, it really, really went up. They're costing so much because the sizes have increased drastically as well. Earlier, when you were looking at like apartments, they were in the 3,000 SFT, in the 3,500 SFT. But now if you were looking in the luxury segment, there's no end to it. You can buy a 15,000 SFT apartment, which spans over a single floor, or you can get a 5,000, 10,000, 6,000. So the floor plates have increased drastically. And I think this is for 2 reasons. One, like I said, the number of HNIs and UHNIs in fact, like Hyderabad actually took over other cities as the second, as the home to the second largest number of, ultra high net worth individuals. And the younger generations that come from these affluent families are actually preferring apartment living to villa or independent home living.
Because of the maintenance?
Yeah, because the maintenance is easier. There are services being offered here. The community is more compact. Yeah, but maintenance is a key factor, right? Like even if I were to personally like build a home, I think I would go for a larger apartment than a villa.
I think me too.
Just it's so much easier to maintain. There are so many things you don't need to worry about. When I'm left in our villa alone, I don't know where the water pump switch is or something else. These are things that you don't have to worry about in apartments. So I think that's why, because the younger generation is definitely preferring, and young parents or the younger generation, they are looking at apartment living as opposed to villa living or, home.
I agree, because I've moved from a home to individual home to a apartment. It's so much more convenient.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes so much more comfortable. So I think given that, I think the supply is also going to continue to grow. We have a good enough supply now, but I think it is going to continue to grow and it will continue to do well as well.
Okay. And you feel the younger generation, in terms of affordability, has increased as well, right?
Yeah, it has increased for sure. I think the disposable incomes of like different age groups have all gone up. So I think, and here we do have in Hyderabad, the trend, we've seen a lot of there are a lot of business owners. So, I think, disposable income is there for them to invest into these large format homes.
So you've had experiences in different states, right? In this real estate space.
Yeah.
So how do you think, say if I have to compare Hyderabad to, say, Bangalore or Delhi or Mumbai, where does Hyderabad stand? And how do you feel it's going to be comparing it to the other states?
So I think, Mumbai is obviously the best city for luxury real estate, followed by volume. If you compare it by sales volume, Mumbai clocks in the highest number of sales, followed by your NCR, followed by Bangalore for luxury real estate. Hyderabad is definitely in the list of the top 8 cities, and I think it's catching up very quickly. So far, maybe not, it's been a little slow on the uptake, but now with the disposable income, with the influx of global companies coming in and with the exposure to newer concepts, like I mentioned, branded homes and serviced homes, all of these things that happened in the other cities 6-7 years ago are now coming to Hyderabad, but the uptake is really quick. They're catching up very quickly. So I think we will progress to the top 5 in no time. In terms of commercial and retail, we're pretty much way up there. I think in the luxury residential real estate space, it is picking up.
At least in the first 8 is where we stand.
Yeah, we are in the first 8. So
I think we will surpass a few other states.
Yeah, definitely. Because I don't think any other metro has really seen the kind of development Hyderabad has seen, right? Something that I found really fascinating was during COVID, peak lockdown, Hyderabad managed to lay 64 new roads. I remember coming out of COVID and seeing all of these new roads connecting different places. And I'm damn, I haven't seen one road come up in Bangalore in 20 years, but this is great.
Yeah, I think the metro is still
going on. So I think that is playing a key role. Everybody is betting big on Hyderabad, whether it's the industries or the real estate investors. Or,
I think a lot of investors have now, said that we are going to invest in Hyderabad.
They are definitely looking at Hyderabad. So I think we will make it to the top 4 in no time.
So I also, I'm a little curious about, are there people who buy luxury properties who take a loan?
There are, because your cost of capital, home loans are basically some of the lowest cost of capital that you can get it at. You pay 8%, 8.5%, as opposed to any other loan you might take. A business loan could go up to 11 to 14%. So since your cost of capital here is a little lower, there are times where if you don't want to block out large chunks of money into this, unless you're particularly making this investment for a cap gains benefit or anything else, if you don't want to block out a large chunk of your capital, there are home loans are taken in this segment because home loan rates permit you to do so, and it makes no sense, especially you're a business owner, a need for capital, then you wouldn't want to block so much on a home.
So it's more on being smart towards the investment aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I've understood your point of view in terms of what luxury means, but you must have communicated and spoken to a lot of your clients. So what do they look at when it comes to luxury?
Right. I think first and foremost, like I said, location is something that they're very keen on. Then coming to it being a really a luxury development, I think they look at the just the uniqueness in terms of design. Is the project really differentiating itself with great architecture and great amenities? Is it really going to be an address that I'm proud to own? That's the second thing that they look at. So that includes your floor plans. What are the spaces that they're giving? Is it a thoughtful design? Are there enough utilizable spaces? Are they wasting spaces on dead spaces, or there's a good amount of thought that has gone into planning these functional spaces? So again, functional spaces, your storerooms, your staff quarters, walk-in closets. I think something I personally and a lot of women do look at is are the walk-in closets. Larger. So in this segment, so usually what happens in the mid-segment real estate and the other sectors, a lot of focus is on your living and your common spaces. But once you move to the luxury space, even your bedrooms and other private spaces are given just as much importance. So people are looking into what's being provided there as well. So are there walk-in closets for every bedroom? How big are the bathrooms? People don't like small bathrooms. They want larger bathrooms. And now it's become a trend to offer his and her sinks and really separate that. And they look for balconies. And Vastu, how can I forget Vastu coming to the, especially in the Hyderabad market. In Bangalore, it wasn't as relevant. We didn't really,
is it? Okay.
It's not, people are not too fussed about it. Telugu people in Bangalore also used to be, Telugu and Tamilians used to be one of the few groups that
very
particular about Vastu. In Hyderabad, everybody is. So I think Vastu compliance is something. And then finally, the amenities that you have, that really makes a lot of sense. In the past, it has been that like clubhouses were made just to say you have a clubhouse. Not really much thought had gone into it. But now people are very keen on what exactly you're doing.
Goes into the clubhouse.
Into the clubhouse. What goes into the clubhouse? How big is my gymnasium? What other facilities do I have? Is there a pickleball court? Is there a squash court? So they're really concerned about the kind of, those facilities that you're getting in your clubhouse as well. And again, exclusivity. They don't want to be a part of a very, high density community. So they would any day prefer something that is a little more exclusive and and centrally located. So this has been the general trend. And of course, I mean, from the design angle, like your floor to ceiling windows and the heights and the fittings and fixtures. Is there a puja room? Is there a study room? Do the kids have a large enough bedroom, and where will they play? Some people are also concerned about the pets. I think So a lot of communities now are also coming up with pet parks, which I think is great because they also deserve a dedicated space. And then security and surveillance, like how is the community very secure? Like if you were to send your child down
just to play,
are they safe? Is it so I think. Just segregating those spaces and having like motor-free traffic spaces where kids can play. All of these kind of smaller touch points are also making a lot of difference in the luxury.
How expensive do you think it is to actually maintain a luxurious property?
It's definitely more expensive than
like how much?
Yeah, so
if we had to compare it.
I mean, it comes down to 2-3 things, right? One, if you're seeking exclusivity, then you have to bear the burden of the entire community being maintained and borne by you, by the fewer number of people. So your common area maintenance itself like shoots up quite a bit. And then your staffing also, surprisingly, like whether it's your housekeeping staff or your drivers, somehow their prices all automatically go up when you're a part of these communities. So I think so far what I have seen in some of the luxury communities versus regular communities, the maintenance costs are almost double. And even your home becomes expensive, right? Because you're having like these lovely like windows and glazed like facades. And as well as just even if they're coming from the outside, even if they're just your day staff, somehow there's already like it's a market because I'm going through this experience right now. So just when you say, okay, I live in this community, they're like, okay, that community pays this much more.
Oh, there's a market price for every community.
So those costs also go up.
And there's this new trend of concept living, right? Like whether it's sustainability or a different kind of theme. And people are getting into that. What is the scenario in Hyderabad in that direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely picking up these past few years because I think in Bangalore we've had these, little pockets of like farm living, community living, sustainability. It's existed for a while, and we've had like different places we could drive to and stuff. For Hyderabad, that's not a possibility. But now I think, especially in the last like 3 to 4 years, I've seen a lot of projects based around concepts popping up and people receiving them really well. And I mean, earlier, I don't think there was as much, but like there are now, I'm sure we're all aware of projects here that are completely based on sustainable farm living. There are projects like ours, which are about being part of a serviced weekend home community that is architecturally really unique. There are projects that are coming up which speak about real communal living, like where you share all of your common spaces but only take up little pockets of built up spaces as yours, and just really like taking the communal living concept to a whole other height. So concept living is definitely picking up here, like very quickly, because I think people are also exhausted from not having like different options to really. There are no places you can just drive to from Hyderabad, right? So I think concept living is picking up places that have character in terms of like hills or these kind of areas are also seeing a lot of developments here, whether you go towards your Hyderabad or where we're located towards the Saga Highway, where the terrains are beautiful, where the boulders are beautiful. So concept living is picking up. Definitely. I think it's being received way better now than it has ever, because people's focus on second homes is also really going up. Like everybody wants to have like a place that is unique.
To get away.
To get away, which like where they feel transported to like a different reality from than what you're used to on a daily basis. So it's picking up quite well in Hyderabad. But it's a recent development. It's not as old as it was in the other cities.
There's a cost aspect of it. What in your career have you seen as the highest cost for a project, luxury project?
I mean, I have seen holiday homes that are coming up at 100 crore ticket size. Now, spending 100 crores itself is crazy. But spending that on a holiday home, a second home, that I think is really mind-blowing for me.
I think I will take some time to absorb that.
I mean, Hyderabad, I have seen some ridiculous prices, but I think a transaction that I personally dealt with was for a large home in Jubilee Hills that has touched close to 65 crores. So that again was fascinating for a home.
Wow.
So that is something.
So Vindhya, what I want to now end this episode with is your view about women in real estate, right?
Yeah, I mean, see, I think there's slowly been a good inflow of women into real estate. That slightly the older views of this being a very like a blue collar job or having to deal with a lot of blue collar stuff, which is why initially like women weren't too keen on getting into this space. But I really think like being in this space and doing this for a couple of years, real estate is like any other business, right? Like it comes down to managing people and managing processes. So if you're able to, but I have been fortunate to find the right partners to do this with, I haven't always gone solo and said, okay, I'm going to do everything myself. So I think identifying those right people to work with, understanding what your shortcomings are. Like if you're like, okay, I'm sure I can't go and deal with like a land transaction or a land purchase deal. Find the right person to do your job. Just know that you don't have to do everything. If your interest is design, that is enough for you to sort of get into it, but build a team around that will be able to help you
achieve
different goals. So I think that is just the same with any business that you do. Where it comes down to people management and process management and fund management, that is what you do. But it's interesting. Some of the largest, like, I mean, because I just recently watched the podcast, like Brigade is run by two sisters. We have another really lovely company called Kasu run by two sisters again. And so people are coming into this space and they're picking their niches and finding the resources to be able to
do the other
things, other aspects. So I feel like that like initial fear of like, women in real estate, that can start going away. And I think it is going away slowly. Even in the city, I have 2 to 3 friends that are in this space doing cool things. So it's nice. And this has all come up in the last few years. So the participation is going up. And I don't think it is as big and intimidating as it was made out to be in the past. So people are getting into this space.
This has been an amazing conversation. The way I look at luxury projects, right, is going to be slightly more different than the way I looked at it before. And when I see a hoarding that says luxury project, I'll just be like, not everything is luxury, and it's a word that's been overused.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for coming. And it was a lot of fun conversation.
Yeah, this was very fun because we were doing it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. There's humor to it and a lot of insights, right, for our audience.
yeah.
And I think they understand what luxury actually means and what should one look at while buying a luxurious project, right? Thank you so much for coming. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been really fun.